The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Marketing with Purpose series of the Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore what it really takes for marketing leaders to create impact that goes beyond the numbers. I'm Tulio. On each episode, we sit down with marketing experts and leaders to explore their leadership approach and strategies that drive performance and resonate with their audience. Together, we'll dive into what's working, what's not, and how purpose and empathy can transform the way brands connect with people. So let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Michelle Hubner. She's Director of Marketing at Ideal Siding, a fast-growing home services franchise specializing in siding across the U.S. and Canada. Leading marketing for a close to 100 location network, Michelle focuses on helping local franchise owners grow profitability while building trust with homeowners making major exterior renovation decisions, big ticket items. Her work blends performance, marketing, brand reputation, customer empathy, and practical franchise support with a clear belief that marketing should be more than generating leads. It should create confidence, connection, and sustainable business growth. We're going to explore turning marketing into a revenue engine. And I'm very excited to dive into how thoughtful marketing, strong systems, and cross-functional collaboration can fuel long-term growth and turn marketing into a revenue engine. So let's dive right in. Welcome to the show, Michelle. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Tulio. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Before we dive in, I'd love to hear why turning marketing into a revenue engine was the topic you chose to explore with us today. And what makes this so important, especially right now?
Great question. Tulio, I was glad to hear that this is one of your favorite topics to think and converse about too. And for me, turning marketing into a revenue engine starts with clarity around the revenue target. If we don't know what we're trying to achieve as a company or at the individual franchise location level, it's really hard to build a marketing plan that can help us get there. I think there's that saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. It's that important to understand where you're headed in order for us to have the right plan to get there. And another thought that I had around this was, in a franchising system, marketing can't be just about activity. It has to connect to the data, to the leads, the meetings, the proposals, the close rates, and the average signed project at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that every marketing activity has to produce revenue immediately, but it does mean that we have to understand what role each channel plays in the growth plan. And a quick example of this is paid advertising might help us drive near-term lead volume, but at the end of the day, Google My Business profile visibility, reviews, the project photos that show the amazing before and after transformations that our franchise owners do in each market, the referral relationships and local outreach, all these things help to build long-term organic traction. And the stronger data that we have from these channels, the better we can plan, prioritize support based on where they are in their growth. So the revenue target gives us the direction, and the data tells us what's realistic, and the marketing plan becomes the bridge between these two things.
Now, Michelle, as marketers, we often get pulled in very different directions. We have the near-term campaign results that are expected and the long-term brand building needed to make sure that the next near-term results are there as well, right?
Right.
How do you ensure your marketing strategy stays aligned with the company's growth goals? You've said that's kind of your North Star. That's the point where you're striving towards. And where do you find the biggest friction points in making that happen?
That is another great question. I think a lot about alignment. And when I think about alignment, I actually think about it in three different ways. I think about alignment within our marketing team, alignment across departments within our franchising support company, and about alignment with franchise owners. And at the team level, I think one of the biggest friction points when it comes to alignment is when people understand what tasks we have. So there might be 20 or 30 issues, as we call them, because we operate on the US model. And they understand that what needs to happen, but not necessarily what the impact is. How is this going to impact the revenue growth that we're driving, and why does it matter at a company level? Any team in marketing or any other department can be really, really busy, but if they don't understand how the initiatives we're driving are tied to leads, meetings, or revenue, it becomes a lot harder to prioritize. So as a leader, my job is always connecting these dots and just aligning on, okay, what are we doing? Why does it matter? What is the potential revenue impact of these actions? And bringing that list of 20 to 30 things that we could be driving forward down to the 3 to 5 that we need to really focus on quarter to quarter. So that level of alignment.
Nice. Now let's talk. Go ahead, sorry.
Across departments, I was thinking about this a lot, because how many times do we go into a company meeting and we meet and we align, but we walk out of it going, oh, wow, something very different than what we aligned on is actually happening. Mm-hmm. And it's, for me, the missing piece or tool that can help to bridge that gap between alignment across teams is aligning on the decision made and the impact of it, so other teams can also prioritize in their workflow. Who owns different actions needed for that decision? Because many times it's multiple people, multiple department leads that are involved. The time frame, or how often something needs to happen, and then the success, how are we going to measure it? And having it documented, Tulio. Like, I feel like many times if we just walk away from a verbal conversation, it doesn't cement things, or it doesn't align things well enough in terms of a process in a scalable company to be able to have all of these core 4 or 5 things documented. Oh yeah, we talked about this. This is what we're aligned on. We're all on the same page. Now we just have to focus on execution and not wondering if this is really what we meant when we said such thing would happen.
Yeah.
Happen with you too?
Well, all that is great. And what happens is sometimes people will say what feels right in the moment. So the follow-up, it's all in the follow-up, right? It's keeping that alignment going, and keeping accountability towards the alignment is key. But then stuff happens, right? There's a crisis with the brand. The market has a downturn, something that is out of our control that takes place that throws a monkey wrench into everything that we're doing. So, and in those moments, it gets hard to stay focused, and even to be on purpose, and even to maintain empathy in how you either manage or lead, or you present yourself in the marketplace. So you're kind of under the pressure to respond to a fire, right? So how do you maintain that empathy and strategic decisions, even in high stakes situations? What's worked for you?
That's a great question. How do we maintain empathy in high stakes situations and keep alignment within our teams and company when these things happen? And they do happen. Gosh, I wish they didn't happen, but they always do. And that's one thing that we can expect. And I think as leaders in a company, the first thing is to make sure that we're staying calm, and we're becoming that example that everyone else on each team can look at as an example. These escalations can happen at the company level, franchise owner level, and the key priority and key stance we take is how do we de-escalate and make sure that we're landing on the same page with whatever this crisis is as quickly as possible. It's really easy to become defensive or start to challenge. But I think when you're in a leadership role and when you're leading a team that's watching you, you have to be the example of just calmness, clear thinking, focusing on next steps. What can we action in this situation, in a situation where there might be a lot of uncontrollables? What can we focus on? What can we move forward? What can we help to make happen? Or what additional resources do we need to help bring this to not necessarily a solution right away, but a de-escalation kind of really quickly?
Absolutely. Leadership is kind of like parenting. You don't want to be the source of the storm. You don't want to add to the storm. You want to be the calm in the storm. So
absolutely.
It's absolutely necessary. Okay, so you're in franchising, supporting over 100 locations. And I think one of the exciting things for marketers about franchising is that you're building, you're constantly in building mode. You're launching new locations. It's almost like being a startup within a well-established business. And so when you're launching or entering new markets, what's been the most effective way to align things like sales, product and service, a customer success team? Because it's harder to do when you're scaling it and you have multiple locations in different places, different cultures. What's worked for you in terms of, you've mentioned the key to doing that, right? I'm just curious, what's the secret sauce that's allowed you to do it in a way that it doesn't break down?
Another great question. How do we keep alignment and performance high in a situation where we're launching in different markets and there's a lot of moving parts? I think what's really powerful in a franchising system is that we have data on what works, what channels work, what can produce higher ROI in terms of revenue, and what do we have in terms of all the strategies. We've tried a lot of things during the time that we've grown as a company, and we're constantly trying a lot of things in different markets too at different stages of the business. So when it comes to launch, aligning on, again, that plan, that franchise owner and that individual location, where are they headed? What is their revenue goal, and what's the is it realistic? Is it realistic based on all the data we have from locations that we've launched in similar markets? Does the strategy that they have in place make sense for what they're gearing towards? Is their paid advertising spend budget strong enough to be competitive in that market, to actually win more clicks and conversions and leads and meetings at the end of the day? And are the local marketing initiative tactics, do they align with what we know and we've had previous success in terms of, again, data, in terms of what's going to help them get those leads and meetings and conversions and projects won? So a good example of this is if a franchise owner newly launching in a market is looking to, all these 30, 40 tactics I can try, and they're going, it would be so cool to start this high advertising spend in this print advertising. This is the biggest one in my market, as a support team supporting these franchise owners for growth and making sure they're properly positioned. We would likely recommend in that scenario that that's not the right tactic for their plan based on the data that we have. So in these early days of launch, cash flow is tight. You're building. We need to focus strategy on the highest ROI channels that have given us proven success in terms of these metrics and in terms of the revenue you can generate right away. When you don't have a lot of cash flow when you're launching, then the tactics that would make a lot more sense would be high time and energy. Like build that first referral relationship that with a company that doesn't do what we do. Other franchise owners that have done this in an early stage of their business have seen good success with this. They have gotten in 1 to 2 leads per week from this established relationship, and it's gonna cost you more time and energy, but that's what you have more of when you're newly launching. So really aligning at that strategy level, what activity and actions we think will best position each franchise owner during their launch, and making sure we're keeping things very realistic so that we're positioned to succeed. We don't want to create goals as a company or a team or at that individual franchise location in a way where it's going to be a reach to get there, or it's going to be we want to have a proven path. And because we're in franchising, we know what works, we know what expected ROIs look like, and we plan for success. We plan very realistically so that we can achieve that and we can keep growing and scaling in a profitable way.
I love that. It's a lot of companies get in trouble pursuing the aspirational truth instead of the realistic thing that they can accomplish, and it can get a lot of people burnt out and tired, and then no one feels like they're succeeding, and it's a spiral. That's not a good spiral. And I love how you use data, especially first party data. That's so critical for franchising. But sometimes the data doesn't tell the full story. Sometimes the connection with the individual, like you said, if you don't have a big budget, maybe it's calling someone for a referral, maybe calling them to put a review up, because reviews make a big difference, especially in terms of establishing authority in the local market, right? So how do you have a story, maybe where customer feedback versus the behavior data kind of completely shifted your campaign direction? And what did that teach you about balancing being data driven, analytics driven, but also intuition, where you're kind of listening to people and hearing what they have to say?
Right. I have a story about this, and it's pretty early on in the business where we would go out and meet homeowners to earn their business. And this story sticks out in my mind, where they went and they met and they had an awesome meeting with the homeowner, the husband, and they scoped out the project and they lined on all the details. They pretty much thought, okay, this is closed. We're going to be ready to go. We're just going to get a yes and we'll be able to move ahead. And then that husband calls, franchise owner and is saying, oh, I talked to my wife and actually, we're going to have to start from square zero. This is not what she wants. And so early in the history of the company, we realized from being boots on the ground that our target customer is actually the wife of the family, who makes the decisions around what color siding she wants in her house, what type of siding, how her house is going to look. This was the key decision maker that we learned through just being there and understanding and working through the process. So this has changed the direction of how we market, and just having a core understanding of who our customer is, who the decision maker is, who are we actually talking to, and what we need to change in our process to make sure that it's including both the husband and the wife every step of the process. Taking a step back, I think that, like what you mentioned, reviews is really important, or as a company, looking at these things carefully and understanding what our customers appreciate about what we do. In our company, it's the speed and the power of being very strong in communication at that location level. Oh, this franchise owner, this business got back to me so quickly. I was able to meet with them quickly. Oh, I got the quote so quickly, and they talked to me every step of the way. They exceeded my expectations when it comes to communication. We see that common theme, and that informs our process and what we focus on in terms of leveraging in our communication when it comes to marketing, and what we focus on in terms of internal improvements to our processes. So I think it's really important to have a strong finger on the pulse of what is happening at that customer level. And our franchise owners, actually, this is really cool, and I got to be a part of it, actually shadow actual homeowner meetings during their in-person trainings with us. So they get to actually meet and see and understand the pain points and concerns. They get that real life practice and training when it comes to understanding and who our customer is and how we want to work with them.
Nice. Now, as you think about growth, and what is most important in terms of the outcome that marketing is expected to influence, and where does it still have work to do in terms of creating that predictable revenue engine? What feels harder and than it should be in marketing right now?
I think that what we're experiencing as a company is very similar to what other companies are experiencing as well in the home services space, which is the shift from a very strong focus on digital only kind of lead generation for the business to understanding that even the way search is shifting. For example, Tulio, people want to work with that local, trusted, reliable contractor. And how does that show up when you're even searching online? It's the contractor that has more reviews, that has a stronger digital presence, that is actually posting hyper-local content in the form of the beautiful projects that you finished. So I think the biggest shift for us is to really have an increased focus on what that local marketing strategy looks like, what tactics are going to move the needle the most in terms of not just ROI and expected revenue from tactics we've tried, but also aligning that at the human level with who your franchise owner is. If they are super tech savvy and super introverted, really is the best tactic for them at that local level, building brand reputation and trust, encouraging them to turn their phone to selfie mode and just recording videos about their projects every week. That is going to be really, really tough for that person who is super introverted. You have to know who these business owners are as people, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and work with that in order to build the right types of tactics that they will see success with. So that introverted business owner is not probably going to have a much lower chance of succeeding with that, because adoption is going to be hard, executing is going to be hard, being consistent with it you're not going to see that compounding effect with something that they don't want to do in the first place, never mind being really consistent with it. I tell a lot of franchise owners in our system that marketing should actually be fun. If you're doing the right things in your market, if you're really social media inclined, yes, we see business owners in our system that are happy to record videos and they're seeing actual ROI from it in terms of projects. Oh, posted their awesome project and someone reached out and they want another big project from it. We hear things like this, but for that type of owner specifically, like the example that I'm painting here, could they reach out to a few other companies that don't do what they do and start to build those one-on-one relationships instead of being in the spotlight in the public eye? That's probably something they can action and do.
It's a lot, because especially in high ticket items like what you guys are in, you have to be good at selling and closing, right? But now you also have to be an influencer. So it's challenging for some. I've actually discovered that a lot of franchises, they have about half that are actively doing that and the other half need help, right? So if you're not willing to do yourself, it's important to have someone who's going to do it. Sometimes that's where fractional capabilities come in and help too. So let's talk a little bit about talent, right? Because you just identify a key area that's like, this is a must do if you're an owner. Well, sometimes some of them struggle with that. So you got to throw in some people from your own team to help them along or coach them or even do some of the work for them. So what's been your approach to develop marketing talent and so that they not only hit high performance goal, but stay engaged and inspired, stick around and lower the churn? And where do you see maybe yourself or even other leaders struggling the most in retaining top talent?
Another great question. And the founder and CEO of our company, Alex Philippuk, he likes to say something a lot that is what you just said reminded me of, is how do we inspire our team to action? And how do we inspire our franchise owners to action when we're thinking about anything that we're doing as a company? And I think that's the kind of mindset that we operate from at the internal company level. We operate using the EOS model, which creates very high alignment and inspiration. It all comes down to the core values at the end of the day, right, Tulio? How are our team exemplifying the core values that we defined our compass for our team and growth? And a quick example of this is I run the weekly meetings for our entire company, and I've created a structured process, a system where we take 5 to 10 minutes every single week, and we will think about any other person on the team, any other department, our own team, other department, and in a specific example, a shout out. We call it a core value shout out, where they will talk about, oh, this past week, I want to shout out to Paulina, who really owned this area. It wasn't her area, but she saw the opportunity, she owned it, and she helped us move the needle from A to B. And we take time to do this intentionally every single week as a team to inspire and to motivate. And so that as a team, we're looking for opportunities to catch what we're all doing right within our teams. So I think that's part of it, is being intentional about what processes, practices you're building into your team at that company level to build culture. Because many people think, oh, part of a company, oh, it's so bad, it's so toxic, or the culture is so bad. But when we're I've been a part of a lot of startup companies, or when we're in a quickly scaling company, coming into that company or team and going, wow, what are the opportunities that I have to build culture within this team?
Yeah.
And being very intentional about that, I think, is something that does help to move the needle.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not hard to do either. It's just being human. I've seen shout outs, I've seen little moments of celebration, whether it was internal to the company or even something you had to celebrate external in your life. Just tapping into a space of gratitude changes the whole direction. And I've seen companies go even as far as list clearings, which is I particularly find useful in helping everybody be present, because you could be in a meeting and maybe someone did something, they ignore you. They didn't even realize they ignored you, or you're in your head about how they acted towards you, and you're just playing this movie over and over, right? And it's hard to be present in a meeting when you're just thinking that person doesn't like me, right? So I've seen it clearing exercises where everyone just kind of says, last week this happened and this is how it made me feel, and I just want to let it go. I'm just putting it out there to let it go, right? So the other person just listens and lets you clear that list, because I might be holding a list on you that's not even a real thing. It's just something that in my head happened, but it allows me to stay present. So I love that you guys are doing that, because not enough companies value how important that is. Final question. How does purpose, empathy shape the way you approach marketing today? And can you share a personal story where your work had a meaningful impact on a customer or even an employee?
Yeah, I really like this question. I think it shapes every single facet of what we do as a fast-growing company in the home services space, where it's all about that connection with the customer. So I'm thinking of this particularly because what is our job as a franchising support team is to support the franchise owner at the end of the day, and to have a high level of empathy and aligning with their core purpose of what they're seeking to do. What, beyond just even the revenue goal, what is their goal in life? We did this at our annual conference, where one of our franchise owners in our system, he led an exercise where we talked about our BHAGs, our big, hairy, audacious goals, and our purpose. And what does that look like? Does it look like relaxing on a yacht and running your business a certain way? Or what drives you? Is it the family? Is it the lifetime? What's that vision? And understanding what that looks like for our franchise owners, being extremely empathetic with the different challenges that they're facing directly, uniquely in their market and in their life as humans, with their families. There's a lot of things that happen that are much beyond our control in any given person's life. So understanding that, working with, not holding accountability in terms of, why didn't you do this for your business? Like the relationship that we have as a support team, like, why aren't you driving these core actions? But no, what can we drive forward? What impact do you think it's going to make? And how can we support you to get there? Are we missing tools? Are we missing training? What are the connecting dots that we can fill to help you succeed with this? We only want to see you succeed, and we only want to help you succeed in the plan that we've created together that makes you excited about growing your business to this point. So that level of empathy and understanding the purpose, and connecting to the purpose of that franchise owner, is really important. We've had situations where franchise owners are going through really difficult times in their life, and being able to step back and be there with them. There's nothing we can really help solve, but understanding that we can certainly help to support when it comes to business planning, the direction, what core things, even it comes down to, the one thing I can drive or at any given time, and helping to support that the best we can from a human level, not just from a business level, I think is extremely important. And I've seen this approach, this more human empathy approach, really having the power to help transform individual location businesses where they went, wow, I thought my business was not going to survive. I've heard this specifically. I didn't think it would work out. But then being able to see the turnaround and see that completely shift to a strong business that he could have never imagined before, with metrics that he's exceeding, targets that he set month over month. And the key thing here was, though, he was always focusing on building the business in the right way. Even though he wasn't seeing the immediate results, he was focused on the highest impact actions. Even though he couldn't action everything, it was the highest impact actions, the highest ROI actions. We work this out together as a team, and this can really help to transform businesses from maybe not being viable to 180-degree shift where you're really exceeding your growth targets. So it's not stopping the activity on the highest impact actions. It's keeping that going, even if it's just a few core areas that will compound and help you see results.
Nice. I love everything you've said. And, if you're a business owner, assume good intent. People do want to be successful. And the minute you start thinking, why are they not doing this? Why is this not working? That's the wrong question. Asking, what can I do to help them? Where's the gap? Maybe there's a courage issue, but once you get past that, people will do incredible things. Michelle, thank you for joining us on the Marketing with Purpose series of the Bliss Business Podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Tulio.
I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas for how you can build stronger connections across teams and create marketing strategies that are not only measurable, but more aligned and collaborative and human. If you found value in this discussion, please like, subscribe, and share it to keep the conversation going. And remember, great marketing doesn't just sell or perform. It connects and it serves. See you next time.